Welcome to this segment of Lawrence Live. I'm Dr. Sean Smith, Superintendent of Schools, and welcome to this segment of Lawrence Live. And I am extremely honored today, ladies and gentlemen, as I have a very special guest with us. I have our leader, our executive of the Marion County Health Department, my friend, Dr. Virginia Kane is with us. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Caine.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith.
Absolutely.
I'm really honored to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. And as our leader in the Marion County Health Department, we've got a lot to talk with you, a lot of questions, because you have certainly been a leader for us in this area, especially during this pandemic. Dr. Caine, you and I are here. I am fully vaccinated and also have my booster. So is it okay if we take our mask off?
I am fully vaccinated and I'm boosted as well.
Okay.
So we're pretty safe to be able to talk about our masks.
Well, Dr. Caine, as we all know, you serve in a very important role leading our health department. But some of our people out there who are watching us in our cyberland there are many of our students. Let's talk about your background. Tell us a little bit about your background as the leader of the Marion County Health Department. How did you get there?
Wow. So I started out coming from Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, and I was a research analyst. And I did a lot of work with HIV/AIDS patients at that time when it was new. And so I got recruited here to do similar research projects, and part of my projects involved working in the Marion County Public Health Department. And as such, I was asked to be an acting director of the Public Health Department in some kind of way. I don't know how they were able to pull it off. I eventually became the director.
Now, I'm not going to ask you. I know you have led this department for years, but we're really proud of you. How long have you been the leader of the health department?
So I've been the leader of the health department now for at least over 15 years.
And with that becomes a lot of responsibility. You have certainly, I know all my students know who you are, certainly the faculty and parents out there are very much familiar with you. But in your role as leader of the health department, what is your main job for the kids?
Oh, for the kids? Well, I think one is it's so important to keep them, protect them, and keep them safe. And sometimes we have the threats of infectious diseases, and so this is so critical that all of our children make sure that they're up to date on their immunizations to protect them from getting sometimes a life-threatening infection. But also, believe it or not, the food you eat and the water you drink, it's my job to make sure you're not experiencing any food poisoning from the food that you eat, and that the water that you drink is safe, so you're not exposed to some viruses like hepatitis A when you're drinking the water. And sometimes you can drink water where industry, they sometimes put some chemicals or pollutant products in the water that may not be safe. So there are a lot of things that I try to do to protect the children. And you know this is the case. I'm a sports fanatic, okay? So I love to see what's happening for anyone that's involved in sports, or you may be in the choir or the band. So what are those additional activities that I can look at to make our children safe, but while making them the smartest kids on the universe?
Absolutely, Dr. Caine. So you are in charge of our public health at the highest level. Dr. Caine, about a year ago, and I can remember getting a phone call from you about 2020, about March of 2020. We were faced with a very difficult decision. Let's talk about this pandemic. You contacted me and said, we have an issue. Talk about that in your role in leading and guiding us through one of the most difficult periods at least during our lifetime, and that is the COVID pandemic. Talk about that.
So people in the healthcare arena had heard about this coronavirus that supposedly came from Wuhan, China, but we were amazed at how this virus had transmitted to different countries. And it was multiplying in great numbers, not only infecting people, but people became so sick were hospitalized and they were dying. And we were saying, whoa, I wonder could that happen here in the United States, because basically we're just a plane ride away from people traveling to these different countries. And in just a short period of time, we had our first case in the month of March when we realized that this was a serious virus, but also based on the fact of how contagious it was and how quickly it could spread. We called all the superintendents, I called you, and all the public superintendents, and to say this can spread so quickly and transmit among our children and our staff that, I asked you to close down your schools for that 2-week period just before spring break was occurring in order to try to cut down significantly the number of cases that could be spread in children. And when you're in a closed classroom, or you go to eat among your friends, and we didn't have the proper protective procedures to be put in place at that time, the better part of valor was to close all the schools.
And you made the right decision, Dr. Caine, because obviously after that, the rate of infection spread rapidly amongst our adults and then as well as with our children. So as our public health expert, I depend on Dr. Caine tremendously for her expertise and help, because as a school superintendent, my expertise is education. And so as we begin to talk, Dr. Caine, you really gave some solid recommendations to us. And let's just kind of revisit those recommendations, because we've kept those recommendations in place since then. We have made it to the end of the semester of the 21-22 school year without closing. Let's go back, because you had some really important things that you asked of us as school officials and our parents. Let's talk about that.
Well, let me just say that, remember now, this was a new virus. We'd never, in the lifetime of this century, we have never experienced a virus like this, where we were seeing over 1,000 cases last Christmas holiday per day. We were overwhelming our hospital systems. We didn't have beds in our critical care units. And it was just, some of our patients were lying on gurneys in the hallways, in the emergency rooms. And so just an incredible, enormous impact was occurring for all of our healthcare delivery systems. And so when you have a new virus, and the science, we're learning it, it's evolving every day, you try to give the best recommendations that you can based on that particular circumstances. And for us, that meant that when we had such a spread, a significant spread in the community, we made the decision that we have to close all schools related to this. But now, I have to give credit to your school leaders to say, wow, you know what? I haven't had any cases. Why should I have to close my schools when we're doing fantastic? We don't put some procedures in place, and we're not experiencing this, because sometimes learning remotely is definitely not as optimal compared to if you're in the classroom. You have that social contact. You can see the nuances sometimes of the teacher talking, and children learn differently. It may not always have the equipment to learn remotely if I don't have access to internet, or I don't have an iPad or laptop or a computer in order to do this. So we went back to the drawing board, and we said we've got to develop a system that we can just evaluate individual schools, and based on what's happening in that school, try to provide some assistance, but we don't shut down any school that's not experiencing a significant number of cases in their school system. And oh my God, it just worked beautifully. And we had so many schools that, on one hand, I can think about the schools that we had to close because of that policy. and what we were able to bring to the table. But honestly, I think if you guys had been pushing, you know, sometimes superintendents can be pushing. Okay. I think we really benefited the staff and everyone, including their parents.
And I will give kudos to Dr. Caine and her entire staff. They were on point and correct in their recommendations to us to mask and social distance, because it did make a difference. But we did collaborate and work very closely with one another to make some really good decisions about how we could function and operate school, and it has worked.
I think the shared decision-making is critical, because you have a perspective that I don't have, and your experience was enormous in helping us to make our recommendations.
So Dr. Caine, as we go forward, because one, I think the pandemic, talk about the future. Is this going to be around? What can we expect? And what should be our plan going forward?
Well, my goal is, because you know we have this very new, highly contagious new mutant strain called the Omicron variant. And it appears to be way more contagious than even our Delta strain that we're seeing now. And so, but the symptoms appear to be milder. But if you're infecting a whole host of people, that's going to still overwhelm your hospital systems, where people who, boy, I'm having a heart attack, I really do need to maybe get a critical care bed, or I'm having a stroke, or an asthmatic attack. And so we've got to know that our healthcare professionals, this has been going on almost 20 months, they are burnt out. It's overwhelming to see patients continue to die in the high numbers that they serve. And so, to answer your question, we don't know yet what this impact of this new variant is. We know that it's in 35 states that's identified so far. Let me tell you about the Delta. Superintendent Smith, I was going to take my vacation August of this past year, because in Indianapolis, our positivity rate had got down to 2%. We say that we start to be concerned if we're looking at a positivity rate for 5% of your community is positive for this virus, greater than 5% is when we start to monitor. We got down to 2%. And then the number of cases we were averaging a day down to 35 cases a day, compared to we were experiencing 1,000 more cases a day in the winter months. So hey, I just knew it was time for my vacation. And then just in 1 month, the Delta variant, in 1 month, became the predominant strain, had more severe complications, more contagious, that started to increase our numbers this current year. So I think we will probably always have this virus around, just like influenza. And I say that because we weren't able to get our vaccination rate high enough in the community to prevent us from becoming what we say endemic now. It's around. So we should see this viruses every year, but I'm hoping that by March and April, we get to the point we can throw these away, that we won't need the mask. But that's going to be very dependent upon our ability to increase the number of people. Our best critical tool is vaccination, our best critical tool. And so we need to have people vaccinated, and we know that your immunity can wane after 6 months. So we also need you to get a booster shot if it's been 6 months since you've been fully vaccinated. Get that booster, because you need greater protection with this new virulent strain that's out there, and even against the Delta variant. But there are a lot of other little steps you can take. You know, wash your hands frequently. Do that hand hygiene. Carry hand sanitizers in your pocketbook. If it's got 60% alcohol or greater, carry that around. And please, if you are sick, stay at home. Prevent yourself from exposing those symptoms to others. I think that's really, really key. And it doesn't hurt you, because sometimes you can have these infections even when you have no symptoms. That you may occasionally want to test yourself. Go get a COVID testing if you have someone in your household that's immunocompromised. Now, you're going to be unhappy with me, but the holidays are coming here, and I'm just going to tell you, you need to be concerned about who you allow inside your household. You really do need to ask the status of the people that are coming inside your household, because just talking just like this, I'm putting respiratory droplets in the air, and I can leave and go into another room, but those respiratory droplets can remain in that air for minutes, and so someone should just come and move right into that space and inhale and become infected. So talk to your friends and your guests on your porch outdoors. Put that cap on, your scarf, if that's what you need to do, your patio outdoors. But you can enjoy and be among gatherings with your family members and friends, as long as they are fully vaccinated with a booster if they're eligible.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Dr. Virginia Kane, our director of the Marion County Health Department. And what a breath of fresh air and knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, to have the wisdom of my friend, Dr. Virginia Kane, to come and speak to us on this important topic. And I want to thank you, Dr. Kane.
And Sean, I do need to say that when you're indoors, if you're not vaccinated, consider making sure you wear a mask. And even consider wearing a mask if you're indoors now. Because of Christmas holidays, a lot of people are coming from out of state, and we can have sometimes breakthrough infections. Wear your mask while you're in public indoor settings, even despite the fact you're fully vaccinated, unless you're in your own house.
You heard that, folks. What else can I say, ladies and gentlemen? But thank you, Dr. Virginia Kane, my guest today and friend here on this segment of Lawrence Live. And ladies and gentlemen, we hope to see you soon. Thank you for watching.
Well, hey, you know what? For one of the schools to get the finest scholastic achievements with their students, I just want to congratulate you and the school system for doing a wonderful job. And I never mind listening and watching your sports events that occur from your school. I'm a huge fan.
Thank you, folks. Thank you for this segment of Lawrence Live. Thank you.